Eigenblatt reporting from Gasparini Studios in Miami, Florida. We have a very special guest today. His name is Professor Arjen Galdini. He's the leader of the new movement in Albania. He has many years as a statesman, also as a professor, teaching political science and related subjects. And first of all, welcome, Professor Galdini.
Thank you very much for your invitation, and it's an honor for me being here.
It's our honor to have you here. Well, he's on a tour of the United States. He has visited New York and Washington, and now he's visiting us here in Florida. Would you please tell us a little bit about your visit?
Well, Albania is passing through a very, let's say, specific situations. The opposition decided some months ago, to burn its mandates. So they are not anymore in parliament, and they decided as well to boycott the local elections. Albania now has a monocratic government, which is paradoxically the former Communist Party, now called Socialist Party. And the opposition is out by its decision. The need of Albania to have a balanced system where democracy works, where institutions function, where the opposition is strong and tough to the government, is immediate, is vital. So we believe as new movement, as a new political party, that communicating with our allies, mostly the United States, it's the very first step. So if we want to have success in our country, so that democracy succeeds, United States should be the ones who lead our, let's say, strength and forces to change the reality in Albania. No one can do it because the big parties, they control everything. The big parties control the media. They are contracting the oligarchs. They control the finances, the economy of the country. They control the social life, the cultural life, and they have contracts even with organized crime, which is a shame. All sides. And the other thing that they have done is that by the electoral code, they now control even the capacity of the Albanians to elect their own representatives. So you have three men who lead three parties, who decide for everything. They decide who will be on the list for member of parliament. They decided who will be on the list for, let's say, running for mayor of their city, of a city hall. And they decide who will be whatever, in any position in the government. Three men, just three men. From political pluralism we had in 1990 that we won when we fought against communism, now we have come to another kind of pluralism, which is a sui generis kind of pluralism. It's a chairmanocratic pluralism. Three men show, deciding for everything. So we decided to come to the United States and talk to people here, because the United States is doing something really amazing for Albania. From 3 years, they are trying to enforce the reform on justice. So those guys that have been on the leadership of the country, on the government for 30 years, and those guys who have been misusing their power, they have been using power to become rich by corruption, by breaking the law, they face justice. So no more untouchable people in Albania. This is more or less the motto of the reform on justice. Anybody who has done anything wrong for the country, who has done any breaking of the law in the country, deserves to face justice. Reform on justice is vital for Albania, but we need the United States to keep it as a priority. So we met people at the State Department, we met people at the Congress of the United States of America, we met people in different bipartisan organizations and structures, from all kinds, from the media as well. And thank you very much for being another media, opening a window for us to speak up for our country. So we need the United States to keep the focus on these things. Albania needs to have the reform on justice going till the end, and Albania needs a very substantial, deep, radical, principled electoral reform. If we don't change the electoral code, then no chances are there to change things from within. Yes, the United States, through the reform on justice, can create a plain flat reality. So the untouchable will not be strong as they have used to be. But still, free and fair elections are the only instrument that can guarantee So the Albanians will choose their own people, the people they like, the people they want, the people they elect. So this is more or less. We have been happy to see that the United States is very firm and decided to go till the end with these two reforms.
Professor Galdini, you present a very concerning picture of Albania, which is a very important Balkan nation. Do you see any parallels between your movement and the struggle of Cuba and Venezuela against communist regimes?
Well, I would say it's a little bit different, it's slightly different, because they are in an ongoing communist regime.
Mm-hmm.
We fought the fight against communism 30 years ago. In 1990, I was one of the guys who joined the students. They were leading their movement, but I joined them as their fan.
Yeah.
And then I joined the first pluralist party. I was one of the first guys, first people who joined the Democratic Party, the first party of the pluralism, political pluralism we had. If I recall those times, everybody in Albania, everybody was electricized by the desire for change. So fear didn't matter anymore. People were ready to die for their freedom. People were ready to give it all to win their freedom. What happened in Albania is that we have been betrayed by our elites. Our political elites chose another path. They used the political consensus given by the citizens for other purposes, to become rich, to create a small group, a handful of people who control everything in the country. They changed the rules of democracy, and they made it even, let's say, narrow. The paths of democracy are very narrow now in Albania. We had political pluralism, now we have chairmanocratic pluralism. We had free and fair elections, we now have just legitimate selections. We don't have any more free and fair elections. We just select between three lists of three men or three parties. Before we had a free media, maybe a little bit chaotic, not well organized, but still a free media. Now we have media which is more propaganda of parties, partisan media. So we know the media comes from one of the three parties and is controlled by one of the three parties. Or there is another kind of media controlled by oligarchs. Or there is another kind of media controlled by the organized crime.
Well, Professor Galdini, I understand what you're trying to tell us, which is basically that three people control the government. However,
the government and opposition.
And the opposition. However, isn't democracy about winning elections and about majority rule? How do they manage to win the elections and to get a mandate to keep running the country if supposedly they are so illegitimate? Can you please explain that?
Well, because by changing the democratic game and making it more a fake, a facade game, so we have by procedure elections, but indeed we do voting, selections. We had by, let's say, formally media called free media, but we have more propaganda media, partisan media in Albania. We don't have, Robert Dahl says that if you really want to understand the matrice of democracy, you have to see what are the indicators of representance, how people are represented, so how they are part of the processes. In Albania, people are not anymore part of the process. Nobody asks them. Nobody really hears them. People in Albania have the right to speak, but they are not heard, which is quite unfortunate, because this is not a democracy. Democracy is about hearing people. It's not about only speaking up. Speaking up without hearing, it's a disrupted process. The other thing that we have in Albania is that people are on the edge of extreme poverty. This makes these guys of the three main parties contracting criminals, contracting oligarchs, and they buy votes. So it's hard to see in Albania who is the real will of the Albanians. Whom are they choosing? Whom are they electing? This distortion has created a government and opposition that do not come by legitimacy, but they come by their own processes that they have choose to make, sometimes by force and sometimes even by unconstitutional laws. So the actual electoral code we have is very unconstitutional. Do you know one thing? Let me tell you, we had local elections in this June. I was about to run for mayor of Tirana. I decided to run for mayor of Tirana. By my own experience, I saw that in order for me to run in Tirana, I had to get 1%, as this code, this electoral code says, 1% of the signatures of the people who are registered voters. But I have to get those signatures in a form where everybody signs up his own private information. So breaking the law of privacy. But not only that, they have to sign all those information, and then they have to give me a photocopy of their ID card, and signing the photocopy of the ID card, wow, which is quite impossible. But imagine a little bit, in Tirana you have something like 400,000 citizens, registered voters, so I need to get 4,000 votes. But who gives you all this information, private information? And the ID card, in a reality, when three main parties control everything, even their jobs, even their schools, even their children's schools. So the whole quality of life is controlled by the three main parties. So for new movements to enter in, it's quite impossible, and this is banned by law. That's why I call it an unconstitutional law. We have to change all of things, but without United States, believe me, it's impossible.
So what is the way forward then?
Well, we need to keep Washington with the eyes on Tirana. We know that you have your own problems here. You have to deal with big problems here, and Albania, it's not the center of the world. But still, it's enough to have those people who work with Balkans and Albania. They just need to be passionate and understand that a quick fix is never a good fix. We have suffered in 30 years this quick fix, trying to put the same guys, find a solution, make a dialogue, make an agreed compromise. And so we have legitimized them, because they agree to create cyclical crisis. So some internationals will come from United States or from European Union and sit them in the same table and achieve any agreement, which would be in fact a legitimizing of their control for another 10 or 30 years.
So you're implying that change comes from outside?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it comes a moment in the stories of countries when strength of the citizen is so much waned, almost disappeared, that people need this flat plane, so they need some guarantees. But you see, what happens, it's a paradox. The Albanians have tried to really change their reality in years. But we have had always some internationals coming there and telling us that, oh, this guy is a good guy. For those guys that they call now corrupt guys. We have had in 30 years cyclical crisis and always international mediation to achieve dialogue, so to impose to the Albanians, same people, continuity. My calling to the internationalists is that, okay, if you want us to find a solution ourselves as a society, do not mediate them. Do not come to mediate them. Do not put them on the same table. We don't need a dialogue, a fake dialogue, which is in agreed it's an agreed, because they have a pre-prepared solution. All they need is some internationals to legitimize their pre-prepared agreement. It's 30 years they have this negative consensus agreements. 30 years. And this is the moment when Albania needs to change it all. And my calling to everybody I met in Washington, D.C., and to everybody I meet here in Florida, at the university, at the Catholic University of New Spain, I would speak about this thing as well, and I'll call the conscience of people there to help us not mediate between corrupt people, but give strength to the citizens. The inner energy will be so productive, so surprising, if people will see that these three guys will not make it up to survive again. If we'll have this kind of approach from United States and European Union, then I believe that the inner energy will change it all. Then we'll see again in Albania the same path of people giving it all for freedom like in 1990.
And what is the role of civil society in this new movement that you're proposing?
The new movement, it's a political party. We believe that in Albania now civil society is as much fake as it is media, these three political parties. Everything is a scene. Everything is part of a role. They have never allowed in Albania that civil society comes up as an inner energy, as something that comes naturally, by its own. But we have had always funding by outsiders or by insiders to achieve through the civil society this, let's say, this result of encapsulating people's energy. When you see a civil society organization totally, let's say, out of its mission, but only a bureaucratic thing, or only like an agency of organizing protests for political reasons, then people lose faith on those things. And people think that, well, they are all same, politicians and civil society. This strategy of making everybody look same, evil, untrustable, it's a strategy that weakens the citizen. So we have decided, if you want to really change things, it ought to be political. In democracy, you compete. In democracy, you don't just speak about things without doing something. In democracy, you don't go on the streets and flying Molotovs. In democracy, you choose to go and meet the people, give them hope through a program, through an alternative, through ideas. And mostly in a country like Albania, where youngsters are losing their aspirations. We are becoming a country without aspirations. You asked me earlier about Cuba and Venezuela. They are countries without aspiration, but they are living in a dictatorship. But us, we are living in some kind of fixed democracy, fake democracy, not like them, a little bit different, but it's equally evil.
And how is your political party different than the other ones? Because by ignoring or, in a way, relegating civil society to a very servile role, you're implying that your political party is taking up the mantle of change, of transition. But people would need to know what makes your movement, your political party, so different than the other ones, that it can basically take that important role that usually belongs to civil society.
My idea for the new movement, Lëvizja e Re, we say it, Lëvizja e Re, new movement, is that we are not going on the streets. We are not that kind of opposition. That's not our way. people should go on the streets. Citizens should go on the street. If you ask me about civil society as a concept, yes, I fully support it. If academicians, intellectuals, youngsters, free voices, public voices, will call people to go on the streets and fight for change, I will support them. A new movement will support them. We will not take leadership over people going on the streets. We will take leadership over alternatives. This is our way of doing things, because we need that Albania needs normality. We believe that Albania needs a different approach. This partisan approach of a political party controlling everything, taking leadership of everything, is of a different kind of time and mentality and culture. Usually these are former communist parties or fascist parties. They go on the streets, they protest. We believe a political party in democracy is a party that challenges people through alternatives, through ideas. A political party in democracy is a party that creates the home and the whole environment to choose the best people, so they can go to the people and become their representatives by a free and fair vote. This is our idea. This is my vision. This is my fight. So I want to give Albanians the same hope they had 30 years ago. I want to tell them that I'm not going to take leadership over their fight, because it's their fight. Every citizen's fight to fight for their freedom, to go there, to stand there for their freedom, to give it all for freedom. Freedom doesn't come for free. I keep telling to my Albanian fellows that we work 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours to pay our bills. Well, democracy and freedom doesn't come for free. You have to work for that as well. 2 hours, 3 hours, so you have to do your own job. You have to give it your own time. Nobody gives it for free. No politicians give freedom and democracy for free. No politicians would guarantee that. No.
But beyond freedom, okay, freedom is a very important step. Obviously, the picture you paint of Albania is complicated if people don't count for the big decisions. But people need solutions too. They want to have clear platforms about what to do. You tell me that the economy in Albania is stagnating, that young people are losing hope. But so what new proposals do you have as a new political party to solve those important issues?
We are, our first step is that we are creating this home of the meritocratic people. So we want the best people of the country, the best professionals, lecturers at the university, lawyers, architects, engineers, all economists, get all together in the same community. And we'll develop programs, so we'll talk to people with programs, concrete programs on what's our solution. That's why we haven't chosen to go on the streets, because we have chosen to go on the auditoriums. People need concrete solutions, and we'll give them concrete solutions on every field of the society. How we think about economy, how we think about tourism, how we think about national security, how we think about Kosovo, Northern Macedonia, Montenegro, the Albanians' role in the region, how we think about this geostrategical, let's say, situation, how we think about the partnership of Albania with NATO, with the United States, how we think about this European Union integration.
But you don't have them yet. I mean, you're telling me that you will get them at a later point by including civil society leaders such as lecturers, lawyers, and so on. But do you have a clear position on any of those issues right now?
Yeah, sure. We have our chart of values. Mm-hmm. So we already have that. We have proposed it. It's public. So we have our own statement. I'm saying that the program needs to be detailed. For now, we are working on detailing. So we have the main principles, what we propose to the Albanians. But then, later on, during the electoral campaign, when it will be, or during the process of our growing in all the territory of Albania, we'll try to give them specific solutions and alternatives on how we see every field of the life of the Albanians. So we will give our proposals on how we'll do. We'll have a proper program on that.
And can you give us a preview as to how you plan to integrate Albania into the global economy? Because I think the jobs are probably in the minds of many young Albanians at this point. From what I understand, there's a very high unemployment rate in that area of the world, and young people need jobs. So that's one of the key concerns, I would say, of that generation. How do you plan to create new jobs?
You see, Israel is a small country. They have little resources, but Israel is one of the biggest economies, strongest economies in the world today. Do you know why? Because they are using the human resources as the main resource in the country. Albania is lucky. Albania has wonderful nature, has a lot of minerals, beautiful, let's say, chances, beautiful territory, so we can have a very good tourism developed there. We have the mountains, we have the fields, we have the hills, we have the sea, we have the lake, we have the rivers there, we have the history. Do you know that in Albania we had, in Putrin, we had Cicero and August getting schooled there. In Albania, in a place that we call it Mali Erobit, is the place where it was the final battle between Caesar and Pompeo, before Pompeo got his ship and he went in Egypt, where the sons of Ptolemy killed him and betrayed him just to be faithful to Caesar. So in Albania we have ancient history, we have Illyrians. In the Bible, Illyricum is one of the few countries mentioned. One of the few countries mentioned. But we have, I believe, as I see, and I'm optimistic on that, and I'm even realistic in that, we have wonderful human resources in Albania. We have to make use of them. But till now, the human resources have been oppressed. We have become a country that of creativity is the enemy of the state. So if we will build creativity, if we will give chances to creativity to explode in the country, then we will see a lot of startups, small economies, youngsters full of talents working in. So people will find their own way to create their own jobs. All the government should do is give space to the creativity of people. Now, in these times we are living now, we don't have any more developed country and underdevelopment country. We have countries who give space to creativity, who give strength to creativity, and countries who don't. My country till now, it's a country that kills creativity. I keep saying to my students, it's a pity because we killed Mozart without becoming 3 years old. First time he played piano, it was 3 years old. So we don't allow him to become even 3 years. So it's the whole system working like that. It's a system of mediocrity. It's an agreed system of mediocrity because it's the only way that a handful of people keep their own control on things.
So entrepreneurship is at the core of what you're proposing.
Startups, entrepreneurship, creativity. Now we live in the world of big data, in the world of technology. So technology doesn't need much money, needs people with mind, with expertise, with talents, with geniality. All we have to give in Albania is give freedom, full freedom for people to express themselves, and the government need to have a proper plan to organize those talents, so to make them be cohesive with one another, so the whole economy will work as one.
So the government should be the coordinator of society. That's basically what I hear from you, that they should allow people to do what they can do best.
Yes, I believe that. I strongly believe that the government should be small, but still should keep its role its role in organizing things. I believe that markets self-organize itself. I believe in that because I'm a conservative, but still the government should take care that sometimes people are greedy. And companies and break rules, businesses break rules, third actors break rules. So government should make sure that a plain flat of golden rules will not be touched.
Oh, okay, very interesting. And now let me ask you, you have a background in academia, you have many years of experience as a lecturer. What role do you think that higher education can play in Albania in fostering the spirit of creativity, as an incubator basically of new enterprises?
For saying the truth, I believe that the first step that any government in Albania should do now is invest the maximum of the money on the education. Human resources are the best resources we have. If we don't invest on the elementary schooling till university to make them change the whole way they are now, it seems like our schooling is more preparing the person for the market. So like homo faber thing, the man of the work, the man of the market. We need to change that. We need to encourage creativity. We need to encourage even critical thought. So the society will change. Because people then will think totally differently. And they will consider the society as their common place, where you don't need to take down the others to keep yourself up, but you need to keep everybody up, and through talents shine yourself. So I believe we need to change the whole culture and mentality within universities. More research, more technology, more freedom, and more critical thought.
So it's a total paradigm shift, basically, what you're proposing here. And do you have any colleagues, academics, who basically are included in this movement? Can you tell us a little bit more about your team?
Well, till now, I am very happy to say that my team of the new movement, maybe it's the best team we have in Albania. We are not the most famous team yet, but we are the best team because they are youngsters, young professionals, who are not involved in politics for gains, for personal gains. They are in politics because they consider politics as a mission. So they are there to give their own example of giving it all to change the country. We have lawyers, engineers, architects in our team, colleagues of mine, lecturers at the university. So, and we are becoming even bigger as a team. So every time that is passing through, I see more people joining my team. And I believe that our only problem now is that in Albania we are in this situation of zero media, zero money. Because the three parties, they control everything. So we are challenging them by the grassroots, going to the simple citizen, which is a different approach. That's why we are not famous in Albania.
Professor Galdini, I want to ask you a question that concerns leadership as a global phenomenon. And the question is, do you think that the best political leader needs to have an academic background in that field? As you know, we live in an age of populism, where you have many political leaders with a lot of power and very little background in any of the social sciences or any training in management whatsoever. What unique vision do you think it gives you to have that training, to have that background?
Leadership is service, is not expertise. This is first thing that comes in my mind. Well, it depends, because it's a huge responsibility. Because you might have the heart, the right heart, you might have the passion to change things, but when you lack culture that comes from, not by expertise. I'm not saying that a person should have a degree on a certain field, but I believe it's a requirement that a person should be a little bit cultivated, cultured, because uncultured minds are narrow. You cannot expect much by an uncultured mind, even though their heart could be really clean, even though their idea and their intentions, highway to hell goes through good intentions.
Yeah.
So I believe that not just a degree, because I've seen in the history, we have had ministers in Germany and prime ministers in Germany as well, in Italy, in France, who are not with a degree, but they are very good leaders. But you cannot say they were uncultured.
So you favor the liberal arts, basically, a very well-rounded model of leadership.
I believe that culture opens minds and opens hearts and opens good ways. So school opens the road to ambitions. Good schooling opens the, let's say, this kind of window. You can see yourself up. Good leaders are those who don't see themselves up, but who see their ideas up. So, and of course, it comes a moment that they need to take leadership over their ideas, or they need to raise them up, even himself and the ideas on the top, because they need to take responsibility over their ideas. But these are unique cases. You see, we used to live in a century with great leaders who took decisions, like Reagan, Margaret Thatcher. I have had the chance to meet with Margaret Thatcher, by the way. It was a great honor. We had Konrad Adenauer. So we lived in a century when people took decisions and they more cared about people than about polls. Now we live in a tele-leader time. People like more to be in TV. Now we have this new kind of leader. People like to be on Twitter, but I'm just kidding. But still, this shallow concept of leadership, of being emotional on things, and trying to please polls more than people, it's not good.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us your experience, your wisdom, and of course all of your ideas for the future of your country. We believe that Albania has a great future, and with leaders like you, I'm sure it will. You're always welcome to visit us again in Florida. Thank you for sharing all of this with our viewers. So this was Professor Arjen Galdini of the New Movement in Albania. He's more than just a rising leader. He's a statesman, someone with many years of experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.